Good morning, everyone. It's Krista Ritzkis here with Simply Creating with Close to My Heart, and we are back with episode number 5. I can hardly believe it's been that many weeks, but episode 5 of Technique Tuesday. And as I mentioned earlier this morning, that we are going to talk a little bit about stamping techniques that will actually kind of, well, they'll wow your recipients of your layouts or your cards. They're really easy to do, but they really pack a punch and allow you to get a really beautiful image without pulling out lots of things. And as you maybe have connected, my business name is Simply Creating. So I'm into the more simple techniques that don't take a lot of brain power and that can still create a wow. Now I've branched out a little bit, and we're going to talk more about distress oxide inks and maybe even some texture paste and all of those kinds of things, but simple stuff is what I gravitate to first. And so I'm just going to work on this one piece of paper. I don't have any finished artwork to show you with these techniques, but I'm going to put together some cards using the pieces of paper that I'm going to stamp today so that you can see what you can do. And I'm also just going to use 3 colors, Carolina, Bluebell, and Sapphire. And Bluebell is our color of the year. It's a really beautiful color. And I'm going to show you what you can create with just 3 shades. I like using all shades of the same color, but any of these techniques can be done with different colors and mixing them up. So whatever you want to do. And so today I'm going to use 3 different stamp sets. This is one you recognize from, I think it was last week or a couple weeks ago. And we did, I showed you how to do the thin cuts with this set. This one's still available. I really love it. It's beautiful for some of the techniques that we're going to do today. I'm also going to use, this one is Elegant Snowflakes. It comes with thin cuts. And then this one also is Jingle Joy Scrapbooking, and it also comes with thin cuts as well. And then we're also going to, so these are both from our November-December catalog. And then I'm also going to use this stamp set, which is also from our November-December catalog, but it's birthday. We all need birthday stuff, right? That's probably one of the seasons or reasons we send cards the most is for birthdays and Christmas. So we're doing both today. All right, what I'm going to start with first, and I'm just going to flip to my notes so I don't forget anything. Where did they go? Fun of live. All right, we're going to start with something that's a little rock and roll. And I think the name of it is funny because I'm not really a rock and roll chick. I don't love rock and roll. But it is a really neat technique. So with all of these, when you choose your colors, you want to do a variation. So you want to do light to middle to dark. And you always start with the lightest color when you're doing these. Okay, so keep that in mind. Always start with your lightest color. So if you're maybe doing a rainbow, you're going to start with yellow. You're not going to start with purple. In most of these techniques, I would say it's probably easier to stick to 2 to 3 colors. Maybe with an ombre effect that I'm going to show you in a minute, you could probably load up more. But for this particular one that I'm going to show you in a minute with the snowflake, it's a 2 color thing. It does not work well with more than that, okay? So I'm actually going to put Carolina aside, and we're going to use Bluebell and Sapphire. So the first thing that you want to have is you want to have a piece of scrap paper, and let me just move these over here for a minute. You want to have your stamp chamois ready because you're going to want to clean your images off. So again, we're just going to pop open our ink pad here. Now I've already loaded up these stamps on their blocks, and I've seasoned them on my arm. Just because I've shown you that in a former or previous video, so I figured I wasn't going to do that again. All right, so we're going to start with Bluebell, and what I'm going to do is fully ink this up really, really well. Get it nice and inky. Okay, you can see that that's got a lot of ink on it. Then we're going to go into the darker color, and I hope you can see this well. What we're going to do is we're actually going to roll our block around in the ink. Now, the more flat you hold it, the more of the dark color it's going to pick up. The more on the edge you hold it, or on an angle, I mean, the less. And so I'll show you that in a minute. I'll show you when I stamp it. So you're just going to roll it all around, and the snowflakes are a really beautiful way. So can you see that? Just to even it out. This technique is also really fun to work with, to do with flowers. And then you can decide which part of the image you want to make it darker. You can do a lighter side and a darker side, and maybe not putting as much of the darker ink on there. So isn't that pretty? I love how that looks when you've got two shades on the same image. So I'm going to show you one more way you can do that with just one color. And this is probably one of my favorite techniques. It's one of the first ones I learned, and since I just cleaned that, I'm just going to rub it on my arm a little bit. It's first and second generation. Good morning, Karen. I see you there. So you're going to take whatever color you want to use. I'm going to go with the sapphire because that's the most obvious. Ink it up just like you normally would. Then you're going to go over to your scrap paper, stamp off. Okay, so you see that's the first generation. Then you're going to go back to the same color and roll it just like you did the first time. And then you stamp it again. So the inside is now going to be the lighter shade of your color, and the outside will be the main color, your deepest color. So that creates an even different sort of image. A lot of ink came off that first time, and so sometimes it depends on, I personally like the two color one. It depends on how you can kind of work with it a little bit and see how hard do you need to push your stamp on your scrap paper. With lighter colors, it might not be as obvious a difference, and that kind of thing. So I'm just going to stamp off this snowflake and set it aside because we're going to move on. Now we're going to do so if you're at all a Cricut user, maybe you've heard of shadow lettering, and that is something where you would cut two pieces of the same image, one in dark and one in the main color, and you'd layer them, right, to create that shadow. Well, I'm going to show you how to do that with stamps. So I'm going to take this Merry Christmas, and I am going to use the same sort of technique with the second and third, or first and second generation, but it's done a little bit differently. And I think let's do Bluebell this time. I'm actually going to close up my sapphire so I don't get my block all inky. The other cool thing about rock and roll and the chamois is you can just, if you get ink on the block before you stamp, just clean it off with your chamois. So you'll see I'm really giving this a lot of making sure I've really got this inked up because it's a fairly solid image. So there we go. I'm going to move this up so you can see a bit better. All right, now this is going to go down here, and what I'm going to do is just press on it, and because it is a very solid image, I'm going to give it a little bit more pressure in different spots with my finger, just so I can make sure. And now I don't have my foam pad underneath here, so that's even, I can see there's a little tiny bit right there. Let's see. This is one technique I do a lot, pick up my paper. All right, so there's my first image. I am not going to re-ink, and because we have clear blocks, I'm going to line it up so that it's over top of what I just stamped. I'm not pushing down, I'm just holding it above, lining it up, and then I'm going to go down a little bit and to the right. And I'm going to do a second stamping. Now, I am quite sure that a lot of the ink transferred the first time, so I'm again giving it some pressure, walking around with my finger, and this is going to be super subtle, but it looks really cute, especially when you can get, I hope it's showing on the, yeah, I can see it, especially here on the S. So you can do that with smaller ones, and I think what I'm going to do is show you, let me just clean this, and later on I will pop it back into the stamp case. Let me show you with the next stamp. I'm going to do the shadow with this one as well. I should have enough room on my piece of paper here. So we're going to pull it off. This is such a great birthday stamp, guys. It's like perfect for insides, and it's got this fun happy birthday that we're using right now. Good morning, Jennifer. And I love some of the sentiments. Lots of people are thinking of you on your birthday. I just wanted to let you know that I'm one of them. Now that everyone else's birthday wishes have worn off, here's a great big one from me. So that is for when you forgot. Oh, and this one, I really didn't forget your birthday. I just forgot to let you know that I remembered. It's so funny. I love these. Why limit the fun to one day? Happy birthday month. They're so fun. Those are like, it's my favorite birthday set right now. But it's not in our core catalog. So you're going to, if you want it, you're going to have to get it before the end of this month. It does not come with a thin cut, okay? So let's do this one. Maybe I'll do it with the sapphire. We'll see if it'll pop. Then maybe you can see the shadow a little bit better on the screen. So again, I'm inking it up. I don't have to give this one as much pressure because it's a smaller image. And that way maybe you can see it better. So I'm going to stamp. Just press down a bit. There's my first one. Okay, and now I am going to, again, line it up over top of my image. Don't touch down. And then move down and to the right a little bit. Now you could go to the left too, but I think right looks better. Give it some pressure and pop up. There we go. Okay, that's a much better one. Can you see how beautiful that looks? I think that that is such a neat way to add just a special little thing. Okay, Jennifer, the stamp set that we're using with the birthdays, it is called On Your Birthday D1960. Okay, so that is really the key to this, and I've learned this because I made a mistake. Line it up over your first stamped image first, and then go over. Don't just try and do the shadow without lining it up first, because you'll be off. Okay, but I just think that looks so cool. Now, I'm going to clean this one off again, because I'm going to show you how to do 3 colors. We all love this ombre effect, right? And I don't even know if I'm saying that right, but that's the way I say it. So I'm going to pop all my lids off. Whoops, wrong part. And now I'm going to also bring in the Carolina. And don't worry, I won't get these bases mixed up. So what we're going to do is from the bottom, like we're going to work off the edge of the ink pad. And you're going to ink the whole stamp with your lightest color, right? That's my Carolina. Then what you're going to do is go, let's say, 2/3 of the way up your stamp. And I hope this is showing on my holders right in the way. I can't see very well there. 2/3 of the way up, you're going to, sorry, no, wrong way, from the bottom. We want the lightest at the top. So 2/3 of the way up, you're going to stamp on your medium color, okay? And then on the bottom third, you're going to stamp in your darkest color. About. It doesn't have to be exact, and I totally am getting ink on my fingers. But yeah, you have to be inky, right? And here is my 3-color image. There we go. And now if you wanted to get really extra fun with this, you could even do a shadow with that if you wanted to. So there you go. 3 fun techniques that only require stamps and ink, nothing else. And all you have to do is, this one again was rock and roll. So you ink with the lighter color first, and then roll your block, your stamp into the darker color, as little or as much as you want. Or you can do second generation, that stamp off first, and then stamp on, and then roll in the dark color, and then stamp on your project. So those 2 variations of rock and roll. And then we did shadow stamping. So you stamp first, first generation, so ink up and stamp on your paper, and then stamp again by lining it up again and stamping down and to the right a little bit. And so we did that on both of those. And with this one, you're going to ink with your lightest color first, then your medium, and then your dark. You don't know how you don't mix the colors? I can't read your whole your whole comment, Jennifer, because my holder is in the way. That's why you do it light to dark. That's what, then the colors don't mix. There's a little bit, but it's not enough to impact your ink pad, and that's why it's always, you always have to go light to dark, especially when you're mixing the colors like this, and then there will be no impact on your ink pad. Okay? Oh, mix the lids. Well, I just know. The bases, this is a Carolina color. They sometimes just get on there. And this is my newer one, so that's Bluebell. And Sapphire I've used lots. So that's how I do it. I might keep them all together otherwise, but all right. So stay tuned because I will post finished pictures of what I did with these. And I might actually redo this one in a different color so that you can really see the shadow. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Thank you, ladies, for joining me this morning. Again, if you are interested in any of these products, you can shop at simplycreating.ctmh.com. And we also have a cyber sale on right now. So that goes until, actually in Eastern, it's 2 a.m. So you got lots of time, and there's lots of great stuff in there. Again, it's Krista Ritzkis, and I hope that you have a wonderful Tuesday day. All right, we'll see you next week. Bye.